Lauren St John is an award-winning author who's written books for children, including The White Giraffe and Dead Man's Cove. Good evening, Lauren. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
It must be important to you as a children's author that children read your books, obviously. Why?
Because to me, reading, as a child, growing up in Africa, I was so inspired to read and do things with my life, I felt I could live other lives reading books. And, I think that reading is about so much more than just academic success. It's about making us rounded human beings. There have been so many studies by neuroscientists and psychologists to show that reading basically trains us in the art of being human. We learn empathy, we learn compassion, we can go from our small world and experience other people's lives, and that influences how we respond to them.
But that has to be longer form stories then. So how does it make you feel when we see that children are reading more texts than they are reading books?
I find that absolutely shocking, to be honest. And I think the government has to take responsibility for this, because David Cameron with his Big Society, the government is actively killing off libraries. For children who don't come from wealthy backgrounds, who aren't going to amazing schools, these kids desperately need a library to go to a place where they are encouraged to read and have access to books.
And I know this is children who are from poorer backgrounds, but some children's books aren't particularly expensive. You can get them for a pound. So the onus is on the parents as well?
The onus is on everyone. I think there's sometimes a passing of the buck. Parents need to read to their children. Teachers have to, they can't rely on teachers. Equally, teachers can't rely on parents, and the government can't rely on it. All three of those have to play their part in promoting reading.
It's not quite bedtime yet for children who should be reading. They might be having their bedtime story in a moment. But for those children who are watching, who don't read as much as they should, give us quickly the reason why they should. Not necessarily your books, although that'd probably be good, wouldn't it?
It would be wonderful if they went out and read Firestorm immediately, but I think, open a book, you can step into another world immediately. You can have an adventure. You're sitting in your own bedroom. You can visit India, Africa, ride across the West on a wild Mustang. What could be better than that?
Absolutely. It just reminds me of growing up and reading Roald Dahl. Actually, before we go, who did you read the most when you were growing up in Zimbabwe?
I read Roald Dahl. I love The Famous Five. I so badly wanted to pursue smugglers across in pea soup fogs and sleep on the moors.
Lauren, lovely stuff. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
You're welcome.